An absolute value is represented by the symbols like these. Now, of course, there's usually something in between, like a number, like, I don't know, an 8. Sometimes it's negative. Doesn't really matter if it's positive or negative, though. All that really matters is that we understand that this is the symbols used for absolute values.
Can we write the absolute values and number in the answer?
Yeah, write down anything, yeah, and all the good stuff, okay? I would write down all of it if I could, but sometimes you may not be able to. Here's what you really need to understand, and the words are saying this pretty much is, an absolute value is just asking you how far something is away from 0. For example, in this example that they are giving us right here, we got -5, the absolute value of -5. Well, how far away is -5 from 0? 5. And that's why the answer to this one is 5. Okay, now, if we look at this other one though, how far away is 5 from 0? 5. So notice these both came out as positives. It has nothing to do with the opposite, meaning that the absolute value of a positive is not going to be a negative, okay? Because, well, we usually determine distances in just positive values. Like you wouldn't say that I'm going to walk -5 steps west if you were going to walk east. You would just say I'm going to walk 5 steps east. Or I live 30 miles, -30 miles north of Salt Lake City. Bam. That's lame. You wouldn't do that. You would say I just live 30 miles south of Salt Lake City, okay? So keep that in mind. It's always going to come out and spit out a positive. So let's look at some example like these, okay? Now we have to be careful with negatives in these things. So for example, let's take the absolute value of, someone got a number?
38.
All right, I heard 38. Well, how far away is 38 from 0?
38.
38, that's pretty good. But what if we made that 38 negative right here? Well, how far away is -38 from 0? Yeah, it's still 38. It didn't change our answer at all. Well, let's change this just a little bit and make this a negative absolute value. Now we must be extremely careful because we're going to take the opposite of whatever the absolute value gives us. So what is the absolute value of -38? 38. And what's the opposite of that? -38. You see how that now can spit out a negative because the negative was in front, hopefully. Hopefully you understand that. So let us change this just a little bit and get rid of this negative right here. Well, now what? That is correct. The answer to this one is still -38. Because the absolute value of 38 is 38, but it's the negative of that, or the opposite of it, which is -38. All right, so inside absolute values, and absolute values are classified as parentheses. So when we're looking at that PEMDAS garbage, it is classified as parentheses. You must do the absolute value first. So you may see operations on the outside, and let's go ahead and tag those on. So we'll just say +2 right account. So we must find that value of that absolute value first. Well, here's what you're going to want to do, especially in the beginning. Now this is kind of new for you guys. Is you guys are going to want to change this -4 into positive right account. No. You must do everything on the inside before you take the absolute value. So -4 times 2, bam, -8. We got this -1 right account. Absolute value plus a 2.
It's 9.
Now what's the absolute value? I'm sorry, what's -8 minus 1? -9er,
Yeah.
right? And this is still +2. Well, what's the absolute value of -9? Bam, 9. So now we got 9 plus 2, which is 11.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, so let's look at the number line right here, right? So this is 0. There's -5 right here. And let's say that this is -10 up in here. 6, 7, 8, 9er. So this is negative 8. That's where we would start. And then the minus tells us we're going to go to the left of 1, which would take us to negative 9er. That's how we got this negative 9. So operating on this, we've still got the absolute values. And we'll do those first. Right? We'll keep the subtraction between. So I got negative 3 times 6 up in here, which is negative 18, right? And then I got 4 times negative 9er, which is negative 36. That's pretty nice. Well, now we're going to take the absolute value of negative 18, which is 18. And what's the absolute value of negative 36? 36. It's 36 units away from 0. So we got 18 minus 36, which gives us negative 18. So some of you guys wonder, because our answer here is negative, but we had those absolute values. That doesn't matter. We found the absolute values, and then we did the operation of subtraction up yonder. So we are good. It's not going to make, it won't always make the answer positive, kind of like we did with that first example.
Unless if there's a negative.
So the absolute value of 182 is just asking, how far away is 182 from 0? 182. There we go.
Sweet.
So here's another example we may see on the homework, or even the test, is true or false. True or false, like this. I'll say the absolute value, someone give me a number.
21.
I heard 21, I guess. Does this equal negative 21?
No.
Question mark?
It equals positive 21.
Yeah, that one is falseness, because 21 is 21 away from 0, not negative 21. What's the absolute value of negative 4? Well, we can see on the number line that negative 4 is, well, 4 away from 0. So it is 4. That is all. Alright, here we got the absolute value of negative 5 minus the absolute value of 2. We did one of those right. Absolute value of negative 5 is 5. The absolute value of 2 is 2, which is shown right here. 5 minus 2 is 3. Bam. There's 3 examples on the bottom. You guys try those out. Good luck.
Okay. Well, the absolute value of 8 is 8.
Why? Can someone help her out? Clark?
Yes.
Is it really Clark? No, what is it? What is it? I had the C part. Explain.
It's 8 units away from 0.
There you go. That is it. Thank you. Good luck.
2 plus negative 3 would equal to 5.
Oh, sorry. Let me get that.
Would equal 5 because 2 plus, it would technically be 3, would equal to 5. It would be 5 units away from 0.
Bam. Excellent work.
Okay, so the absolute value of negative 6 is just 6, and then minus 5 equals 1. So the answer is 1. I missed.
Sorry, technology
it's
stinks
1.
sometimes.
Not 8, it's
It
1.
happens. All right, excellent work. The answer to this one is a Juan. Here's another 3 problems for you guys to do. Give these ones a shot. Good luck.
Thanks. Okay, so the answer would be 9 because negative 9 is 9 spaces away from 0.
Bam. Fish. That is all. Thank you.
Okay, so This would be 18 because it's 18 away from 0. This would be 10 because it's 10 away from 0, 3 minus, and it equals 8.
Bam. Excellent work.
Okay. So, the absolute value of negative 11 is 11, and then the absolute value of negative 6 is 6, and 11 minus 6 is 5.
Bam. Thank you. All right, let's get started on number 1 right here. So we're going to keep these absolute values where we got the operations. But we can't take the absolute values of the numbers out. So the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. The absolute value of 100 is 100. And of course we've got our operations up in here, like at these. This first absolute value is 5 minus 2 times 3. Some of you guys, it looked like, forgot that we have to do the order of operations right here. So I've got to do 2 times 3 first, which is 6. So now I got 5 minus 6, which when I combine those, I get a negative 1 absolute value, which just spits out a positive 1 right here. Now, of course, the rest of it stays the same. So let's look at the other absolute value. When we combine at these, 3 times negative 2 would be negative 26. Well, the absolute value of negative 26 is going to spit out a positive 26 because it is 26 units away from 0. So now that we've got this full statement here at the bottom, 1 plus 3 minus 100 plus 26, it appears, right, we got 1 plus 3, which is 4, minus the 100 plus 26. And then we got 4 minus 100, which is negative 96, plus a 26. And when we combine these, negative 70. Yes? There you go.
Okay, so negative 5 absolute value is automatically positive 5. So these two added together is 8. And then these are both positive. But, no, go up. They're both positive. And then added would be no, not 13. Is there a way I can erase?
Yeah, your eraser's too low.
Right there.
There you go.
Okay. There we go. Okay. 15. Shoot. Okay. And then this is also positive. So added together would be 48. I'm pretty sure. No. Okay. That works. And then you can add 8 and 15 together, which would be 23. And then you just have to add it by 48. And then the grand finale is... oh my gosh, what am I doing that's at... no. Okay. I'm messing up so bad. Okay. Negative. Wait. Oh, it's 16. Okay. There we go. Add it. But we don't add it. And then I've got What is it? 7.
All right, good catch on that, Ben.
Sorry,
So
I
that
messed
would
up
be-
and it took a while.
Oh, that's okay. So 16 minus 32 is negative 16. Now, be careful on this because the order of operations, right? So you do the 8. Some of you did plus the 8, which is 16, plus the 7, which is 23, plus 16, which is 39er. Thank you. And then minus 32. And I don't know which one's easier, but you can do it the way that Ben did. If you did the order of operations way, that's very good too. Okay. So, this absolute value stuff is just how far away some number is from 0. And as we can see down here, the absolute value is indicated with these 2 lines. Now there's usually something in between the 2 lines, like a number, such as, you guys give me a number? 10. Bam, 10. Like these. So the real question on this is, I mean, they'll ask you what the absolute value of 10 is, but what it's really asking is, how far away is 10 from 0? 10. That is all. Well, what if they said it was negative 10? How far away is negative 10 from 0? 10. Oh, very good. Okay. So keep that in mind as we look at some of these. The number line right here is indicating this with 5, the absolute value of negative 5. It's 5 units away from 0, so it is 5. On the other hand, the absolute value of 5 is 5 units away from 0, so it also is 5. This is not talking about opposites. No. We are talking about how far away something is from 0. So keep that in mind. It's not what is the opposite of 5 is, well, that's negative 5. That would be wrong. It's how far away is 5 from 0. Bam. So let's look at some examples up in here. Some examples like these. Well, we had that last example, right, where we had an absolute value of negative 10, which was 10. Very good. But what if we make this the negative absolute value of negative 10? Yes, now it's a negative 10 because we already found that the absolute value of negative 10 was 10. But this purple negative up in here is telling us to take the opposite of that absolute value, which would be negative 10. Well, if we make this positive 10 right here, what happens now? Yes, it stays a negative 10. Because the absolute value of 10 is 10. But then we got that purple negative on the outside.
So it's the exact same.
Which is making, yep, it will make that exactly the same. Very good. Let's look at another example then. So what about something like these? Well, absolute values are in the same categories as parentheses. So we have to do them first, meaning we need to solve them first. Which would include all the other order of operations if we had any inside, which we'll do some of those later. What's the absolute value of 8? 8. What's the absolute value of 17? 17. And what do we have between those? Subtract. What's 8 minus 17? That is negative 9er. Very good. Negative 9er. Right? And, well, can we have a negative answer with absolute values? No. Yes, we can. When there's operations between the absolute values. So we got to be careful about that as well, you guys. Just keep that in mind. When you see something like this on the test, keep this a negative 9 because once we've found the absolute values, then we operate on those values, those new absolute values. All right, so on this example, we have the absolute value of some stuff, and then we're going to add that 12 up in here. Keep in mind that with those absolute values, you've got to use the order of operations on the inside as though it were a new set of parentheses, like a regular set of parentheses. So we got to do the multiplication first. 5 times negative 3. That's a negative 15, and we still got that minus 7, right? Alright, from right account, we still got operations inside of the parentheses where absolute values. Negative 15 minus 7. Negative 22. Right? And we got this plus 12. Does anyone have any questions how we got negative 22? So to figure out negative 22, I'm going to use a number line starting at negative 15 right account. The minus tells us to go to the left. Well, if we go to the left with negatives, we're going to have bigger negatives. So this is negative 20 right account, and negative 22. We went to the left, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That value is a negative 22. So what's the absolute value of negative 22? 22, very good. And then we're going to add 12 to these. And yeah, when we add these two together, 34. Alright, here's an example where we got the absolute value of negative 4. How far away is negative 4 from 0? 4. And they've shown the answer right here. What about at these? Well, let's look at this a little bit closer. Like at these, we got to do the absolute values. We did one like this, right? What's the absolute value of negative 5? 5. What's the absolute value of 2? 2. And we've shown that right here. 5 minus 2 is 3. Alright, you guys take a moment and try these 3. Alright, would someone like to do E?
Okay, so the absolute value of 8 equals 8.
Why?
Because it's 8 units away from 0.
Bam! Fish. That is all. Alright, 2 plus the absolute value of negative 3.
Okay, so negative 3 is the absolute value of negative 3 is 3 plus 2 is 5.
Good old fiver.
Wait, where's the negative though, Ella?
Bam.
What negative? Oh, you scared me.
You trickster. Alright.
I'm a trick-or-treater.
Trickaroo. Thank you.
So, negative 6 is 6 units away from 0, so the absolute value of that would be 6. 6 minus 5 would equal 1.
Bam. That is all. So be careful because a common mistake on this one is just kind of ignore those absolute values and throw on a negative 11 onto these. Don't do that. The answer is Juan. Alright, there's those 3. Just if you guys wanted to see them all together.
Number 5 and number 6.
No, you're just doing number 4.
Nope, number 5 and number 6.
He wants to do all 3. Whoa.
How? Why?
Because the absolute value of negative 9, since it's 9 units away from 0, it's 9.
That is all. Good. White, we'll do number 5.
So the absolute value of 18 is 18. Okay. So the absolute value of 18 is 18. And the absolute value of 10 is, negative 10 is 10. And so 18 subtracted by 10 equals 8.
Bam. Excellent work.
This is 11, cause, yeah, and this is 6, and 11 minus 6 is a 5.
Bam. Good old fiver. Bam. Number 3. So we're going to look at the absolute values here. So I'm just going to establish these right now. And then we'll do all the operations within. So then we got the operations between as well, which will not affect the operations inside the absolute values. Alright, so 18 times old niner should be 162, right? Very good, thank you. 12 times negative 6, it's a negative 72. Be careful. Negative 12 times 6, still negative 72. And 18 times negative 8, negative 144, right? Alright. Now we still got these operations in between. We'll keep these. But let's find the absolute value 162. 162. Absolute value of negative 72. 72. Absolute value of negative 72. 72. Absolute value negative 144. 144. Up in here. Now, we're going to do the order of operations from left to right. Addition and subtraction, because there's no more parentheses, exponents, or multiplication or division. So 162 plus 72, 234, right? And we still got this minus 72, minus 144. So 234 minus 72, 162. Still minus 144, up and count. And then we subtract at these. And it appears that we get 18. Today we is talking about some absolute values, like these. Absolute values are indicated with two bars, which are also considered to be in the same classification as parentheses. Alright, so the absolute value is really just asking for how far a number is, or a value is from 0. So, someone give me a number.
17.
17. Bam, 17 will do. 17. So, this is the absolute value of 17. But the question is really, how far away is 17 from 0?
What's the absolute value of 17? Just 17.
Yeah, that's what we got to figure out, right? That's what it is asking. How far away is 17 from 0?
17.
17. That is the answer. Bam. Well, let's change this a little bit up in here. So we'll make this an absolute value, but what if that was a negative 17? So again, the question really is, how far away is negative 17 from 0? What's your name again? Coop. What?
Grayson.
Grayson, yes.
So it's still 17.
That is correct. It is 17 units away from 0. Now, the direction doesn't matter because, well, when we talk about distance, we don't really care about direction most of the time. For example, it would be really weird for you to talk to people like, hey, I live negative 30 miles south of here. You see what I'm saying? Like, what the heck? I mean, it makes you look really smart, which is maybe that's what you're going for, then do. Or I live negative 3 miles west of here. You see what I'm saying? Like, who says that? Why wouldn't you just say 3 miles east? Right? So that is why all of these will come out positive. It has nothing to do with oppositeness. No, not oppositeness. Only how far away a value is from 0. So, right up in here, we have the absolute value of negative 5, which is 5. And it's shown on the number line, not that you guys have to, but the number line may help you understand that negative 5 is 5 units away from 0. Well, what about the absolute value of positive 5? It also, as we can see on the number line, is 5 units away from 0, so the answer is 5. Not the opposites. Okay, it's not opposites. So let's look at an example. You guys give me another number. 2. 2 is good. Bam. The absolute value of 2. Well, how far away is 2 from 0? 2. Well, what if we made this negative 2? The absolute value of negative 2 is 2. But what if we made this a negative up in here? Well, now it is looking for the opposite of the absolute value of negative 2, which sounds really nerdy, but it also makes you sound super smart. So the first thing we would do is find the absolute value of negative 2, which is 2. And what's the opposite of 2? Negative 2. Fish. That is all. Let's go back. What if this was a positive 2 right here? Then, what would the answer be? Yes? Bam. Because the absolute value of 2 is still 2, but the opposite of that, the green, negative, the opposite of 2 is still negative 2.
Wait, so if it's...
That will do. Absolute value of negative 7 minus the absolute value of 18. What is the absolute? So, again, we're doing this by the order of operations. So we got to do the parentheses first, which are absolute values as well. What is the absolute value of negative 7? 7. What is the absolute value of 18? 18. Now, we have this operation between these, which is what we'll do now. 7 minus 18 become negative 11. And that would be our final answer. Again, the answer is negative, but the absolute values of those negatives, the negative 7, is still a positive. Yes, this one. All right, let's do it. Here we go up in here. Have the absolute value of negative plus 12 by the order of operation. Let's do that absolute value first. So 3 plus 2, bam, 5. 5 times 5, wrong. No, you will not do that because of the order of operations. Jeez. Right up in here, we got to do 2 times 5 first, that's a 10. So we got 3 plus 10. That's multiplication. You got to do multiplication first, guys. All right, so the absolute value, it's a negative plus a 12 right here. 3 plus 10,
30.
13. So the absolute value of 13, that's going to spit out a positive 13. Let's see that negative. And then a plus of 12. And when we combine these, bam, negative 25. No! Negative of 1. Here's another example. The absolute value. Try these 3 up and count. And then we'll see how you guys do. All right. Good luck.
It's 8
Why?
because because 8 is 8 units from 0. So
Bam!
8, 0, and dot, dot, 8.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense, right?
Nice. Oh, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
There you go.
Brad the lad, I like that.
This absolute value of this is 3, and you're adding 2, so it's 5.
Grayson got
Bam.
69.
Then Grayson got it wrong. Good luck.
Thanks, I might need that knowing me.
Okay,
Over there.
so this means 6 minus 5. That's 1.
Bam. Juan. We'll give you guys 1 minute to finish all 3.
So it's 9 because it's 9 units away from 0.
Bam. Nailed it. Good luck.
Thank you. Okay, so it would be 18 minus 10 equals, not the little dot there, 8, and that's the answer because 18 is 18 units from 0, and negative 10 is 10 units from 0, and you just subtract them.
Bam. Very good.
Good job.
Good luck.
Okay, so this turned into 11. I don't like this color because it's absolute value, and then you just do minus. This turns into 6 equals 5.
Well, that's a cool rectangle.
You're saying that 11 minus 6 is 5?
Yeah.
Very good.
I don't like that color.
All right, there's all 3 answers if you like them. All right, 10 more seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Done. Yes, of course you're done.
3.
It's not hard.
No. 1. Here's your answer. There it is. Yeah. All right. So just to go over some mistakes, a lot of people tend to forget to multiply right account first. You must multiply 2 times 3 right account before you subtract that from the 5. So be very careful. That's it. Take a moment and give this one a shot. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here it is. All right. Here is your answer. All right. 7, Alrighty, let's get this one started up in here. Alright, let's look up in here. I got some absolute values like at these, and then at these, and this one, and this one, and this one. And then I'm going to just put all my operations between, then I just know to operate inside of my absolute values. So right here I got the order of operations 20 times negative 5 is negative 100 divided by 10. Bam, that's going to give us a negative 10 right here. Now right here I got 100 times 10, which is going to be 1,000. And then right here I got negative 50 times 200, which is going to be negative 10,000. And this is 18 times negative 3, bam, negative 42. 14 plus negative 5, good old niner. Alright, so I can take the absolute values of these, which means my operations are all going to stay the same between her. And then I got absolute value of negative 10 is 10. Absolute value of 1,000 is 1,000. Absolute value of negative 10,000 is 10,000. Right here. And the absolute value of negative 42 is a positive 42. Absolute value of niner, bam, good old niner. So, now we're just going to operate on these from left to right. Now let's listen to what I'm trying to say, not what I'm saying, all right? So this, thank you, that's very good. That's a 54, right? So this one right here, also 54. That's better. All right, 10 minus 1,000, negative 9,000, 990. And the rest stays the same. Oh, not, yeah, what the heck. One too many niners. There we go. Well, now I got negative 990 plus 10,000. Looks like